Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today, before we get to the main subject, I have to issue a correction about the vlog that you saw last Friday. And that was, well, in that vlog, I talked about the court case. You must all know by now the judgment, again, the multi-million-dollar judgment against Donald Trump, the case, the suit brought by Letitia James, and he was fined 300. The judgment was $364 million, and then with interest up to $515 million in a New York court. Throughout that judgment, and I identified the court as the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York State. They have a Supreme Court, but in New York, that's the court just below the Court of Appeals. That's the highest court. So I said, Court of Appeals made that decision, end of story. But I was wrong. What got me was the word appeal. The headline that I showed you said that the appeals court strikes down yada yada, whatever, or throws out yada yada. And that threw me off. Because, appeals, Court of Appeals. But it actually was the Supreme Court, specifically the First Judicial Department of New York Supreme Court's appellate division. So that's where the origin of that judgment. So there is still my understanding is Letitia James is going to appeal that judgment to the Court of Appeals, which is, as I just said, the highest court. And I assume that would end the matter there. But I just wanted to make that correction because, I got that one wrong. So I have to issue a correction, right? And now we go on to today's subject. And there seems to be a problem in the movie industry. We will be talking about Disney specifically, but apparently young men aren't going to the movies. They're losing young men. They're not making. Well, obviously, they're not making movies that young men want to see. And Disney is apparently very distressed about this. Those last few Star Wars movies have not done well. The superhero movies aren't doing so well. But we'll stick with Star Wars in a moment, because in a moment you'll see why. But anyways, I want to quote to you. I'll give you my own thoughts about this. And I would also mention, let's be charitable here, I guess. I'm a little bit above a young man, but I haven't been to, probably in the last 10 years, I've been to maybe at least 5 years, I've only been to one movie, and that was the Reagan biopic that came out, which I recommend to everybody. And that's, if you're talking about appealing to young men, if you're talking about masculinity, you can hardly do better than Ronald Reagan. So that sort of makes my point. So it's not just young men. Anyways, I'm going to go to a headline here. I'm going to give you an article. This appeared in the Federalist. The writer is John Daniel Davidson, and the reason I mention him specifically is because I'll be quoting from the article, and he's writing in the first person. I do, I this, I that. So just so you understand, I means John Daniel Davidson, does not mean I, but mean me. But yeah, I will be talking after I give you the quotes, and then it will be I speaking. So anyways, here we go. Disney wants ideas for movies that will appeal to young men. I have a few, meaning again, John Daniel Davidson. Disney has been seeking new intellectual property and pitches, such as splashy global adventures and treasure hunts, as the Star Wars machine struggles to produce any film project, and the superhero genre sheds audiences by the minute. No one asked me, again, John Daniel Davidson, but I have a few ideas and some advice. First, the advice. You know what doesn't appeal to young men? Girl boss BIPOC. If you don't know, that's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's, as I understand it, Black, Indigenous people of color. So girl boss BIPOC heroines who beat up men twice their size. Villains who are all straight white men. Everything being gay, constantly being lectured to and propagandized about DEI and LGBT stuff. I'll assume you know what those stand for by now. Young men hate that. As Jesse Kelly aptly put it, you cannot appeal to young men with girl power crap. You cannot appeal to young men by gaying everything up as much as possible. Those two things are central pillars of the cultural Marxist worldview. Therefore, young men will continue to reject them. What young men are interested in is what they've always been interested in: adventure, adversity, heroism, and manly virtue. They want stories that appeal to their sense of nobility, their yearning for sacrifice and glory, their desire to persevere through hardship, punish evildoers, rescue the girl, and save the town. Make movies with masculine heroes, not necessarily muscle-bound meatheads or ridiculous superheroes, but real men who are heroes because they're willing to suffer and deny themselves for a greater good, detach from their own desires to pursue justice, and lay down their lives to protect those under their charge. Make sympathetic films and TV series about the great European explorers and conquistadors, the pioneers who settled the American continent, and the soldiers who fought in the Civil War on both sides. Revive the great tradition of the American Western that gave us the catalogs of Sam Peckinpah and John Ford. Make a TV series based on the Hardy Boys, one that actually resembles the original books. Make sci-fi action films about America competing against China to colonize the moon or Mars, in which China is the villain, just like in real life. If Disney wanted to, and it doesn't, not really, it could make countless films and TV shows that deeply appeal to young men. It would be the easiest thing in the world to do. But to do that, Disney would have to repudiate its woke ideology and quit trying to lecture young men about how masculinity is toxic, America is bad. To all of which I say, amen. Now I'm the one talking, not John Daniel Davidson. But that, well, mentioning the problem with Star Wars, and well, Catherine, I wonder how many of you saw that South Park episode where it had Kathleen. Well, you know, was it Kathleen Kennedy? She's still there. I don't know. I don't understand why. She is the head of Lucasfilm that makes the Star Wars movies. She is still in charge of the Star Wars movies. When the Star Wars started going downhill, it was, well, I mean, we could, maybe Jar Jar Binks was a warning sign, but it started to go woke. I mean, they had Ray, the female, talking, the girl boss who beats up guys. So you have a female Jedi Knight, and you have, you remember, I actually used it as a thumbnail for this vlog, but there's a big board meeting, and she's sitting at the head of the table, and all the executives are around the table, and they're trying to suggest ways to solve this problem that Disney, I guess even back then, they understand the Star Wars movies are not doing well or whatever, and she says, well, I wish I could play the video, but I'll get a copyright strike if I did. I'm pretty sure. So I just have to quote it. And she says, "Put a chick in it and make her gay," and that's basically what it is. That is modern movies. An example I would use, this is one I would, out of my head, but I don't think it's too far off. Let's say the way the movie would be. Well, real life was Daniel Penny. Remember him, the guy on the subway. This guy was. Another man was threatening the passengers on the train, and he acted. He got up and he tackled the guy and choked. Unfortunately, killed him. But as you know, a jury absolved him. It wasn't his fault. I don't want to go through the case, but that's a real life example. So you could have, in the old days, so you would have watch your typical Jean-Claude Van Damme, the Muscles from Brussels, they called them, all those action movies, and somebody, three guys or whatever, or a couple of guys assaulting or harassing a woman, and then one guy comes in and fights them all off and saves the woman. That's how it used to be. And actually, that, in a way, that comes from real life too, because I do have an old friend. I haven't seen him in years. He's still back in outside Detroit, where I'm born and grew up. But he has a beard, and the beard is a Haida scar that he got because he waded into, I understand, a group of 6 guys, and who were harassing a woman, and he saved the woman, but his throat got cut. I mean, he didn't, not deeply enough to kill him, but caused a scar. That's my understanding, and he has a beard because of that. So but getting back to my example, so a woman being harassed by some guys, and then you know, a man, a hero, a man, a masculine guy comes in and fights the guys and saves her. Your typical damsel in distress. These are the movies that I like. That I don't get to see damsel in distress, knight in shining armor, or even knight in rusty armor, which is, it makes it even more heroic. Finds his courage and comes in and saves her. But you make the movie today, and you would have a guy out with his girlfriend, and then 3 guys harass her, and in the first he says, "Don't back off." Leave her alone, and one of the guys would cold cock him or something, knock him out immediately, and then the girl would beat up the 3 guys, and then kneel next to the guy, her boyfriend, on the floor, said, "Are you okay?" And I can guarantee you between those, well, men don't want to see that. I mean, even if you take the Games of Thrones movies, I mean, great. You have all these guys fighting, but you have Brienne of Tarth, and you have Arya Stark. The female fighters, and those probably. I mean, the rest of the scenes were good. I never watched the show, to be full disclosure, but I would just watch clips on YouTube, and those were cringy moments. I don't know about maybe I'm only speaking for myself, but those were I would cringe at those moments and just wait for them to be over to get back to the guys fighting. And I want to, so I give you some examples. I mean, an example, you want strong men and strong women, but I want to see men do the fighting, the physical stuff, and the women are, well, a perfect example is Rocky. Okay, Rocky, the first Rocky movie, so, or could be succeeding movies. I don't remember how many there where Adrian is in the movie, and Rocky is getting the crap beat out of him, and he's on his last legs, and she just, "You can do it, Rocky. You go in there. I know you can do it," and gives him the encouragement to go, to go out and win the fight. That's the kind of female strength I want to see. Or where a guy, big, strong guy, and a woman, I mean, if you reach my age and you haven't experienced this, and then something, I don't know where you're under a rock or in a monastery or something, but where big strong guy and a woman this tall cuts you down with a word, something that you say, you made her unhappy, and you just hate yourself. And I can think of examples in my life. I have to assume that you don't even have to get to my age to have experienced that in your life. Female strength, traditional female strength that I want to see women give men. Well, perfect example would be African Queen with Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. If you haven't seen that, that's a must-watch movie too. And she, well, if you haven't seen it, the plot is this: it takes place during World War I, and Katharine Hepburn, she's a very straight-laced, spinster type, daughter of a minister, very prim and clothes and everything, and she and Humphrey Bogart is this half drunk most of the time. He carries cases of gin in in his boat. He drives a boat. He delivers supplies to this outpost. And what happens is some German soldiers come in and kill everybody, except she manages to survive. Her brother, oh yeah, it's her brother, not her father. Her brother is a priest, and he is going to take her somewhere else because everybody's been killed. But she hears, this German soldier, and she understands that there's a boat, a gunboat or a battleship down at the other in a lake, and it's down this very treacherous river. And she says, "Well, we got to sink that boat. We got to sink that boat. And he says, are you crazy? The literal line, there's death 1,000 times down that river. And she said, they're on the, well, they're on the boat, and he's taking her away. And then she finds out, and she says, we have to, and she says, it's death 1,000 times. We're not going to do that. And she gives him the silent treatment. She just sits there and just doesn't talk to him, doesn't say anything, just doesn't talk to him. And after about a day or something, she tries, like, he makes tea for her. Here's some nice glasses, a cup of tea. Wouldn't you like some tea? And she sits there, and he finally says, okay, we're going to go down the river. And there's another scene where, and they do, and that's what the story's about, going down all the hardships they go through to get down the river. Now, there's one thing where scene where the boat hits something, or the propeller hit and knocks off a part of the propeller, and he says, well, that's it. The blade broke off the propeller. It was breaking off the propeller. We can't do anything, or it's bent. And she says, we have to get that ship. So he figures out a way to create a fire and create enough heat, takes the propeller off, and then enough enough heat to weld that blade back on. Okay, so they do that, and they make a makeshift bellows, and she runs the bellows while he takes a hammer and he welds them together. Then he has to put the propeller. He goes underwater to put the propeller back on, and he looks, and there she is. She's taken off all her dresses, everything. She's in, well, in those days, this is 1914, so long, knickers or whatever they call them. But right there beside him, helping him put the propeller, helping him. You see, not putting it on herself, instead of helping him put it on. And you see this over and over again, where she gives him the strength to go on. There's another really great scene. He gets, he's got these cases of gin, so he's just drinking the gin. He gets roaring drunk, and this woman, she's very straight laced, and he just says, you old bat, or whatever. I don't remember the exact line, but he, just because you're drunk, he just says stuff that really hurts her feelings, and that's it. And he falls asleep, drunken stupor. He falls asleep, and he wakes up the next morning, and he hears this splashing. What's splashing? And he looks up, and it's it's Katharine Hepburn. I don't remember the character. His name is Allnut, Mr. Allnut. I forget his name, but her name. But Rosie, and she's taking bottles. She's dumping all the liquor out of all the gin out of all these bottles and chucking them into the water. And she just, oh my God, he's drunk. But then by the end of the movie, what happens is he gets, responsible. No more liquor, and I won't give away the ending, but it's really worth seeing. But you see, that is the kind of movie that I think people, the young men would see. It's a great movie. Last of the Mohicans. There's with the one with the most recent one with Daniel Day-Lewis. That's really good. And the two sisters are captured by Indians, and he goes to rescue them. And there is one part where the Indians are attacking, and she. I think it's Hawkeye. That's the character that Daniel Day-Lewis plays, and she gave her a flintlock. She's got a pistol, so the Indian is rushing her, and she takes the pistol and shoots him and kills him. But that's it. She has a one shot, and then she and her sister are captured. And he said, basically, he rescues her. And those are the movies that people want to see. Star Wars. We were talking about Star Wars. Now, you remember the first Star Wars. There's in the first Star Wars, it starts with Tatooine or wherever Luke Skywalker is, his planet, and then they get Obi-Wan Kenobi comes, and then they get this message on the ship. It's a 3D, holograph of Princess Leia calling for rescue, and that's what the whole movie is. And they fight the Empire and rescue her. But I think it's by the second or third movie where suddenly she's carrying weapons, and that really, and she's fighting. And that there's another one I'm trying to think. It was just in my head that The Mummy. The first Mummy movie is really great. The two recent remakes of The Mummy, and with Brendan Fraser and what's her name, Rachel Weisz, and they're in, and she's this woman, damsel in distress, and they got to go going to find this treasure in the desert, and I don't want to go too much in the plot, but she she's a, she's a typical feminine woman, put it this way. But in the second movie, which I didn't even bother to see, suddenly she has learned martial arts, and she's fighting and beating up people. And sorry, that just turns me on. It turns me off. I mean, it just turns me off. See if I got any other movies here. I mentioned. Well, that's enough examples. But you get me the idea from that, and from that article, that if you want to, you got to, instead of, well, basically celebrate masculinity, the traditional masculine values of strength, of protecting, of being a provider, of, well, as John Davidson said, one that he, if I can find it here, lay down their lives to protect those under their charge, which is another one. Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood, and he starts out by himself, and then all these people are hanging on. He rescues people, helps people all along the way as he's making this trip across the West, and they're basically his charges, and he's protecting them. And that I guess I'm sounding like a broken record by now, but as Davidson says, that would be so easy to make a movie like that. Any John Wayne movie, John Wayne. Well, pick one, really, just about any John Wayne movie. And people these days, especially these female heads of studios, they're making all this woke nonsense, and men. Oh, and here is, I guess I could start to end with this, because there was a survey done, okay, and when you have these movies with with the girl boss, I guess, who beats up the guys, then women will watch them, but young men won't. But if you have one, what I've been talking about, and Davidson's been talking about, strong man rescues the damsel in distress, young men and women like those movies. So that appeals to the whole thing. Women, they can claim whatever they want, but they want strong men. It's called hypergamy, I think, is a term that's used. That women, you have these women making zillions of dollars, but their preferred, I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but their preferred husband, they want somebody who makes even more than they do. No matter how much a woman makes, most cases, they want the guy to make more. That's we're hardwired after millions of years of evolution, and that's well, you have to recognize that and make movies that recognize that, or you're not going to get men. You're not going to change. You're not going to throw all these girl bosses at us and at these young men, and send a message and try to get men to be more, which is basically what it is. Why can't men be more like women? And these women, I don't know. I mean, take it from me, and maybe I'm sure a lot of you men can back me up on this. Being a man, it's not a picnic. It's not. In fact, there was a transgender guy, a woman who wanted to become a man, and she wrote an article about how sad she is, how lonely that she would have when she was a woman. She had all her friends, and they would, and she said, but she feels so lonely as a man. There's not this kind of, I guess, cooperativeness. I guess I don't know what it is. It was something like that. That he just, this woman pretending to be a man just felt was very unhappy. And well, there's a reason there's two sexes. I mean, if we're identical, really, what is the point? So that is it for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments always welcome in the comment section below this video. Share it with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.